Are there newer people here? Okay. You're newer. Not new, but newer. Kind of in the newer. Okay. Bhagavad Gita. Have you read Bhagavad Gita? Parts of it. Okay. Of the parts of that you've heard, is there a section of Bhagavad Gita that you particularly like? Or is a verse or a message from Bhagavad Gita that you particularly like? Which one? 247. You like that one? Do you know the English or the Sanskrit? Which? Yeah. You were there for the seminar over this weekend? There was a little boy, not so little, 12-year-old young boy. He every class he sat right in the front. And I had him recite that verse about 4 times. And he knew it. I mean, it's like, he was happy that he knew it too.
Any verse other than that would be good.
No, that's a nice verse.
No, I already know that. My dad already explained that.
Okay. I bet you, if I start to say another verse, you're going to know what it is. Sarvadharmam parijajya. What's the rest? Mamekam shara. No. I'm interacting with. Okay, but we're having fun. Just getting to know each other. So it's one of the last instructions that Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita. And in that verse, Krishna says, I'm summarizing in simple language, I've given so many teachings that are principles to live by. All these other principles to live by that I've spoken and that have not spoken, they're subordinate to one principle. One principle is the essence principle of everything. Mam ekam sharanam.
Come to my
Yeah, shelter. Sharanam. Take shelter. Take my shelter. Mam ekam, singular. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo. All sinful reactions, I'll take care of, don't worry. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha yishami ma suchaha. And in case you have some uncertainty or some doubt or some anxiety, no worries. Ma suchaha. It's a nice verse. 1866. When you get home, you can look it up. And very soon we're going to get technology that works. But until the technology works, okay, we'll just take a look at the screen. This is the scene, this is a cover painting of Bhagavad Gita. In the lower left corner, that's Krishna and Arjuna on a chariot, because you know the history. The history is Krishna said, this is my cousin, those are my cousins. I tried to bring it a peaceful settlement. Duryodhana rejected it. All right, but I shall not fight. I'll neither. He gave Dhritarashtra. No, he gave Duryodhana the choice. It's a very nice passage. It's right from Mahabharata. Krishna's reclining. Arjuna is by Krishna's feet. Duryodhana is by Krishna's head. Krishna's made this explanation. I'm not going to participate in this battle. Duryodhana, you have your choice. You can have all of my armies and soldiers that fight with me, but I'm not going to fight. Or you can have me, but I won't fight. He knew what he would choose. I'll take all the soldiers, please. And Arjuna said, no, I'll take you. You don't have to fight. Just, I want to be with you. Mam ekam sharanam, right? Mam ekam sharanam. So Krishna said, very well, I won't fight, but I'll be your chariot driver. No fighting. And so Krishna became the chariot driver. And Arjuna was like, no, I can't do it. No, I want to be your chariot driver. Okay, first day of the battle. Because coming up very soon, as you all know, that's one of the reasons for picking this particular topic. Coming up very soon is Mokshada Ekadasi, December 10th. Coming up very soon. Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita. Mokshada Ekadasi. So the scene of Krishna speaking Bhagavad Gita is pictured here. First, Arjuna asked, he knows Krishna is the personality of Godhead, so he's asking the personality of Godhead, please be my chauffeur. Drive the limousine in between the two armies so I can see who's arrayed, and chapter 1 is the scene, who's on this side, who's on that side, and Arjuna sees everything. There's my teacher, Dronacharya. There's my grandfather. In the absence of Pandu, he raised us like his own children, Grandfather Bhishma, and so many, many, many relatives and friends, and I can't do it. I can't engage. He dropped his weapons. I shall not fight. And then further discussion, and then the end of chapter 1, he requested Krishna, I don't know what to do. You please instruct me. Then Bhagavad Gita was spoken with that appeal. So Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita, starting with chapter 2. And the verse that you're familiar with is from chapter 2. And it's dealing with perform prescribed duty without attachment, which is a topic that I wanted to speak about. But it's from a different section of Bhagavad Gita. The section I wanted to speak about from Bhagavad Gita is chapter 13. And a little bit about the chapter. Let's do a little overview of Bhagavad Gita, quick. Really mini overview of Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 2 has 2 parts. Chapter 2 has 2 parts. One, Sankhya. What's Sankhya? Matter and spirit. Matter and spirit. We belong to the category of spirit. We do not belong to the category of matter. We're not the body. We're the soul within the body. Sankhya. Then Krishna says, you can check it out later, check text 39 of chapter 2. Krishna says, thus far I've explained Sankhya, now I'm going to explain Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga is the intelligence that directs service to Krishna. Buddhi Yoga and Bhakti Yoga can be used interchangeably, although they specify specific things. Buddhi is intelligence. Buddhi, spiritual intelligence. And then Bhakti is with spiritual intelligence, serving the Supreme favorably. But there's an obstacle in serving the Supreme favorably, and that is, there's a number of them. One of them is we're attached to the results of our work. Because we're attached to the results of our work, we can't see the purpose, the higher purpose behind our work. We can only see the immediate fruit, which isn't the higher purpose. So therefore, the principle of sacrifice of the results of your work to the Supreme. Perform your prescribed duty, but don't be attached to the result of your prescribed duty. So what do you do with the result of your prescribed duty? There's going to be some result. So what are you supposed to do with it? Offer it to the Supreme. There's several verses on the same point in Bhagavad Gita. So in essence, it's karma yoga, but using intelligence to direct the mind, and the mind directing the senses towards activities for the pleasure of the Supreme without attachment to the result. Service to the Supreme without attachment to the result. Then comes Karma Yoga, chapter 3. And Karma Yoga is phala, the fruit of our duties, prescribed duties. Again, offer the result of your prescribed duties to the Supreme. And when one does like that and becomes a little experienced and matured in that, then some higher, like a little light goes on, a higher awareness. Gosh, if I'm not this body and I'm not meant to be the enjoyer of the fruits of my work, then who am I? So it opens the door, it paves the way for Gyan Yoga, chapter 4, transcendental knowledge. And as one becomes immersed in transcendental knowledge, it may become meditation on the Supreme, or meditation on Brahman and the Supreme. That's chapter 6. Look at this, we just covered the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. That was quick. What's next? Middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita is next, because at the end of chapter 6, Krishna says, of all the systems of yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Gyan Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, of all the systems of yoga, what is the topmost, uttama, form of yoga? What's that? It's yoga where both the mind and the body have a singular focus. That's the Supreme. Both the mind and the body have a singular focus. That's the Supreme. Then Krishna says, now at the beginning of chapter 7 to the next, because this is chapter 13, it's in that, the third section, the third quarter. So it's a whole description of Bhakti Yoga. 6 chapters. And after those 6 chapters describing Bhakti Yoga comes this one. And this one is nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. So we're back to chapter 2, which is matter and spirit, prakriti, material nature, and purusha, or spirit. So we belong to the category of spirit. But there's this other enjoyer item, and that's, we think we're the enjoyer in material consciousnness, but in spiritual consciousness, there's another enjoyer. Who's the other enjoyer? The Supreme. So it's graduate study of chapter 2, or continuation of, building upon chapter 2. And how chapter 13 begins, it's a very nice chapter, very, very nice chapter. I like it. In the chapter 13, it begins with 6 questions. And pairs of 2, 2 plus 2 plus 2 makes 6, generally. So matter and spirit, matter and spirit, matter and spirit. But he doesn't just say matter and spirit. Prakriti and Purusha, matter and spirit. The field of activities and the knower of the field of activities. Prakriti, matter and spirit. Jnanam and Gayam, knowledge and the object of knowledge. Knowledge and the object of knowledge. So knowledge devoid of the object of knowledge stays on the material platform. I'll say it again. Knowledge devoid of what's behind material nature, it stays on the material platform. But it enters into the spiritual platform if there's recognition, what's the purpose? Or what real knowledge is as opposed to what real knowledge isn't. So, lots of persons, without exception, in America it's law. Everyone's got to go to school. Doesn't matter if you like it or you don't like it. You got to go to school. It's the law. You're violating the law if you don't go to school. And what's the education? The variety under labels, but is it with knowledge of what's the purpose of it? Ultimate purpose of it? To get a degree so you can do what? So you can move matter. And what do you want to move matter for? So you can get a job. What do you want to get a job for? So you can get some money. What do you get some money for? So you can enjoy your senses or have a house and have a family and do things that people that are successful do. That's the purpose. But not according to Bhagavad Gita. There's nothing wrong with having a house and having a job and having a profession and all that. That's fine. But what's the purpose of it? That's missing. Bhagavad Gita is meant to give that purpose. So that's this enjoyer topic. That's Krishna topic. He's the enjoyer. He's the bhokta. He's the enjoyer of all activities. Bhoktaram jagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suradam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim rishyati. Those that understand these things about Krishna, they take shelter of Krishna. Same as 1866, Bhagavad Gita. Mamekam sharanam. So it takes a while to get there, but once one understands what the purpose of education is, not just get your education, but understand the purpose of it, then, Bhagavad Gita has its place. Very important place. So, nature, enjoyer, and consciousness, that's chapter 13. And there's happiness and distress in material existence. Sukha, dukkha. There's happiness and distress in material existence. And if there's happiness and distress in material existence, then a good question, who's really the enjoyer? There's nature, there's consciousness, but who's the enjoyer? So let's find out from Bhagavad Gita what Bhagavad Gita says. There's 2 verses I'm going to be touching on this evening. Karya karna kartradve hetu prakritir uchate purusha sukha dukhanam bhoktradve hetu uchate. There's 2 parts. There's the karya and the karana. Material causes and the effects of those material causes. Karya and karana, the cause and what that which is caused. Just grammar, Sanskrit grammar. Nature, prakriti, hetu, prakritir uchate. Uchate, it is said that prakriti, nature, is the cause of all material causes and effects. Karya karana. That's easy. So material nature is said to be the cause of material causes and effects. Purusha, now this is the matter and spirit. So there's Prakriti and then there's Purusha. Purusha, Sukha Dukhanam. The living entity is said to be the cause of various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. Hetu means causation, cause. The Purusha, the living entity, is the cause, the hetu of sukha and dukkha. And what's the force behind all of that is bhoktritve. They want to become the enjoyers. But by wanting to become an enjoyer, it's a principle. Wanting to be enjoyer in material nature, it binds you to material nature, good and bad. Supposing somebody's good, they're good. They're bound to get a reaction for that good. They're bound to the cycle of birth and death. And with the cycle of birth and death comes some unwanted things, like disease, old age, and death. And the life of the living entity within the womb, according to the Vedic texts, is not a lovely situation. It's the mother may be uncomfortable, the living entity within the womb of the mother is even more uncomfortable. So these four distresses are there as long as you have a material body. So even you do good things and you get a good body, maybe higher destination body or embellished with opulence and intelligence and beauty and nice stuff. This realm or the higher realm. You get a body. And with the body you get these four things. Birth, death, disease, and old age, in between birth and death. While you're busy trying to be the enjoyer, the bhokta of Prakriti. This is chapter 13. And then that's the next verse. That was 21. Here comes 22. Purusha Prakritisto hi bhunkte prakriti jan gunan karanam gunasangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. Purusha, that's the living entity, or let's be more explicit. The imitation Purusha, because there's one Purusha, that's Parama Purusha, the Supreme Person. But in the material world, the living entity wants to imitate the Parama Purusha and call himself Purusha. I'm the enjoyer. Enjoyer of what? Prakriti. Being Prakriti stha means being situated in Prakriti, living entity trying to be the enjoyer, bhunkte, prakriti jan gunan. How does that happen? By the modes of nature, gunan, plural, not singular, it's plural. There's three modes of nature and mixture of the three modes. So try it this way, try it that way, try it the other way, but there's one objective: enjoy. Be the Purusha of Prakriti, be the enjoyer of Prakriti. This mode, that mode, the other mode. Living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. That's the first half. This is due to his association with that material nature. Sangha. Guna Sangha. Sangha means association. We were speaking this whole weekend about Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha is the alternative to Guna Sangha. Supposing one doesn't have Sadhu Sangha, then they've got Guna Sangha. And what do you do with the association of material nature? You try to enjoy independently of the one who is really the enjoyer. So that's the title of the chapter, nature enjoyer. So who's the enjoyer? The Supreme is the enjoyer, but he disappears in material consciousness. And then we get this good and evil. Now, sad and asad has different meanings, but here that Priest Prabhupada is translated as good and evil amongst different yoni, janma, different species of life. Yoni is a place of birth. It's the womb of the mother is a yoni. So it's a place of birth. And in that place of birth, there's different births, yoni janmasu. And the sad asad, good fortune, ill fortune, or good and evil, are the product of association with the modes of nature. Here's a very nice illustration to depict what I just said. There's the good and evil. Now, these players on the stage, they think he's the good guy and he's the bad guy. I mean, all good drama has, the good and evil, the good guy and the bad guy, and there's tension between them. And something is controlling both the good guy and the bad guy. The modes of nature are controlling the good guy and the bad guy. But the person who's being controlled downstairs on the stage, he's thinking, I'm the good guy. And the other one is thinking, I'm the bad guy. But they're both being controlled. We had this very nice discussion. This very topic was a topic of discussion at Illinois Institute of Technology. We had a lively group. There were about, 40 to 50 people, students, mostly Indian graduate students. And it was a lively discussion. Because they understood what I was saying. So then, one of the conclusions is, well, look, it sounds like we don't really have any free will anyways. Because look at these guys upstairs. And I think, I'm the good guy, or I think he's the bad guy. And we're having some contention with one another, or good and evil, or within oneself. There's a battle within oneself between doing what's good and refraining from what's bad. And sometimes good wins and sometimes bad wins. So whether it's interpersonal or within the person, it's the material struggle. But if there's these two guys upstairs just, pulling the strings because they're involved in, oops, not working. So there's the two, good and evil. I mean, you can tell from the artistry who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. But this good and evil is a major topic for theism. That's what these verses are speaking about. It's people that are involved in material nature, and there's good and there's bad. But when there's good and there's bad, it's just the three modes. Another way of saying the same thing. These are puppeteers again, but there's the worker and there's the boss, and the boss is commanding the worker to work, and the worker is working. But above all, there's these three ladies upstairs. And they're representing, by color, the three modes of nature. The three modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, and mixtures of those three modes make all the modes, or all colors, or all variety. Everything. Just like, here's a cloth. And the colors in the cloth invoke a certain mode of nature. And you can't avoid it. It's just that color and modes of nature and how people speak. You can say the same thing nicely, or you can say the same thing harshly, or you can not say anything at all. So there's modes of nature acting at all times in all aspects of life, and thus there's species of life, and there's within the human species there's variety, within animal species there's variety. I forget where I was traveling. I was traveling somewhere. And the person sat next to me had a service dog. I never had this happen before, but it was interesting. He had a little travel bag, and inside the travel bag was a dog. And there's the what do they call them? The ladies that help you get on the plane. Flight attendant. She knew exactly what to do. She asked the fellow, "Is this a service dog?" He said, "Yes." She said, "You have to take the service dog out of the bag." So the dog was in this little scrunched up thing. Took him out. He wasn't like a giant dog. He was a small dog. I don't know what a service dog is, anyways. But he was very peaceful. Maybe they gave him a sedative or something before he got on the plane or something. But he just sat there. He barely wagged his tail. He hardly, certainly didn't bark and didn't do other things that dogs do through the whole flight. Just sat there. He put the dog on his lap, and the dog curled up on his lap, and he didn't sleep. He just sat there and looked up at the guy. Moved around 2 or 3 times in the course of, anyway. So that's a peaceful dog. I mean, I've not met such a peaceful dog before. Again, maybe he was sedated, I don't know. But that dog that's behind where I stay, the dog that guards the auto repair guy, this dog is not a nice guy. Same species. He's different mode of nature, that guy. So within the same species, there's differences, without belaboring the point. And how does it all happen? 3 modes of nature. 3 modes of nature. Flowers, some are very fragrant, some smell really bad, some are poisonous, etc. So modes of nature. And once infected by the modes of nature, it's got a hold of you. Human form of life, unlike the lower forms of life, has an option to transform those modes of nature that we're influenced by. It's possible to some degree to train a dog to be a service dog and be peaceful instead of being mean and bark all night long. You hear the guy, right? He's right outside between both of us.
She has a service dog. So she was saying that service dog is meant to be emotionally supportive for the person who has it. It's like a person that emotionally supports. They have a special category of service dogs. It's like a friend for that person who otherwise thinks that there's nobody in this world.
I see. Thank you for that explanation.
One of my colleagues has that, and she saw the pictures of her service dog. I was first of all I wasn't sure, and then I found out that it was meant to be
An emotional support. Okay, that's helpful. Well, they were friends. Those 2 guys were friends. So modes of nature. So then came this, the discussion at Illinois Institute of Technology. If everything is like, well, if everything is happening by the modes of nature, do we really have choices? Then another question, if there's this omniscient supreme, they know everything. Even before it happens, they know what's going to happen. So we really don't have any choices, do we? It's just like things just are scripted and we're just living the script and we don't make any choices. We're just blobs moving along the river, and the waves go up and we go up, and the waves go down, we go down, and we're scripted. It's frustration. It's a philosophy of frustration. We do have choices. Even dogs have choices. And even so the lower forms of life they're more restricted by the modes of nature, by the embodiment that they have. The human form of life has a longer leash. Not unlimited, but we make choices. We can cultivate different modes of nature, and even beyond cultivating modes of nature, we can cultivate transcendence. That's Bhagavad Gita, explaining the material and the spiritual. So these are the three deities ruling over, presiding over the modes of nature, not just those three ladies, three modes of nature, but there's controlling deities. And we're making choices not only in the modes of nature, but in action, karma. So this is a graphic depiction of one who is inflicting pain and suffering on others, later finds himself on the receiving end of that pain and suffering. It's not a nice picture, but it illustrates the point. And so between the modes of nature and karma, it's a tough circumstance. We're bound by the modes of nature and karma. Yet the human form of life, with proper teachings and proper teachers, then one can go upwards instead of downwards, or stay in this relatively more or less the same position. From the human form of life again into human form of life, but there's no guarantee. Next birth is going to be a human form of life. It can be downward, or it can be upward, depending upon association. Another nice example of the foods that we eat. That's just one who eats indiscriminately can get a body that's more suited for indiscriminate eating. Or a lusty person has more suited bodies than human form of life. And then the elevated position is also an option, a direction to move in. So this is the free will choices that a human form of life has, despite tendencies of guna and karma. And therefore there comes the Bhagavad Gita message. Here we go again. Same verse. Purusha prakriti stohi bhunkte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangosya sadasad yoni janmasu. I like this verse very much. Again, the living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life. Material ways of life, enjoying the three modes. This is due to his association with that material nature. Is it possible to not be in association with the material nature? Yes. We can be in this world, but not of the world. The consciousness can be other than I'm meant to be, I'm this machine, this body, that's meant to be an enjoyer of the objects of the senses. And there's gradations of consciousness above that mentality or that spirit, that sense of purpose of life. But it takes some education and training, and it takes some linking process of yoga, linking with the Supreme. So now back to the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, and we're done. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the introduction topic that Krishna speaks to Arjuna when Arjuna's ready to hear, we belong to the category of spirit, not the category of matter. That's who we are. We're in this world, but we belong to the category of spirit. And then with buddhi yoga, we can engage the spiritual intelligence to direct the mind towards the plane of higher consciousness and extract ourselves from material circumstance. Then the next, karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, progressive stages towards the highest form of yoga, the uttama form of yoga, which is this practice, according to Bhagavad Gita, the practice of bhakti. And the practice of bhakti, one more time, it has two main things, what the mind does and what the body does. And both need to be directed by the intelligence, spiritual intelligence. That was way back in chapter 2. Buddhi yoga. Spiritual intelligence. Where do you get spiritual intelligence from anyways? From Supersoul. From the same place you get ignorance. Where does ignorance come from? Supersoul. Those who want to forget, okay, I'll cover you with forgetfulness. Those who want to remember, okay. I mean, it's a little more than just okay, but there's step-by-step procedure to regain remembrance of what we've forgotten. And what is it that we've forgotten? We forgot who we are. And forgot what real happiness, and accepting what isn't happiness is happiness. And who we are not is who we are. It's ignorance. We're covered by ignorance. Since time immemorial. It's not a nice picture. There is an option, that the yoga option in stages up to the topmost form of yoga, linking with the Supreme through loving and devotion. That's why this chapter 13 and then the final 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita are very nice. It's like a graduate study of what was already presented. So it's good to know where we are in this trajectory of evolution of consciousness. Are we going up? Are we staying? Are we going down? What does it mean to go up? What does it mean to stay? What does it mean to go down? What are the symptoms? How can you discern this from that? And, the real purpose of education, the real purpose of knowledge. Nature, enjoyer, and consciousness. So let's see if there's some discussion. Bhagavad Gita is a nice topic to discuss, a nice topic to absorb oneself in. Hare Krishna. Welcome.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful session. I have maybe some flavor of a how-to question. So if you have, let's say we are trying to overcome a bad habit or what we now consider to be a bad habit, and we have done it all our lives and we don't think it is particularly bad. So in the moment of temptation, when you have maybe a second to decide, should I do this thing or not, is there something we can, or what should we meditate upon or think to pull ourselves back?
Can something be done with a babbling child? Well, what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, of course it's true, but even a man of discretion, meaning that just like the scenario that you just described, I know that this tendency that I have that's been with me for some time, it's not beneficial. It's best if I didn't do this thing that I've been doing for some time because it's not beneficial. But I keep doing it and keep doing it. So your question is, what's the turning point of, rather than continuing to do the thing that's unwholesome, to not do the thing that's unwholesome? That's my understanding of what your question is. What's that turning point?
And very specifically in the moment when we have a choice and we can either do it or not in the split second.
Well, it takes purity. A saying that I believe in and repeat a lot, there's no substitute for purity. When there's purity, then the discerning capacity can act. With the isn't purity, it's just information. It's not discerning capacity. I don't act on it. So then the consequent question is, how does one get purity? Sort of the things that I know in that moment that what I should or shouldn't do, I do or do not do. How do you get that purity? So the whole of Vedic culture, there are different procedures of how does one get purity. Just this morning, for your information, I was giving a class at 5:30 in the morning because that's 7 o'clock at night and 7:30 at night in China. On Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam, different sections of Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam, kind of like an overview. And how Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam opens is, Krishna has left, and Kali Yuga has begun, and there's many sages that know what that means. It's bad news. Kali Yuga is bad news. So they did what they knew how to do to diminish the negative influences of the age of Kali for everybody, not for themselves, for the world. They're very broad-minded thinking people. So they decided what they knew. They were going to perform a yajna, that as soon as they finished the yajna, another one would start. As soon as that one was done, another one would start. They continued for 1,000 years. So an uninterrupted yajna for 1,000 years, one after the next, after the next. But the channel changed. When Sutta Goswami came, they knew that he had heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadev. They hadn't. They wanted to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from the one who heard Srimad Bhagavatam. So it superseded. So the message of the Bhagavatam is, hearing the message of transcendence is the best means of purification. There's other means of purification, but purification by this, that, and the other means purification, please. So that your intelligence can act, not just know, but act and direct the mind. So purity is required. And in this age of Kali, the most powerful means of sound is the holy name. It's like very packed up, compact purity, because the Supreme is the Supreme Pure, and the name of the Supreme Pure is supremely pure. So contact the holy name, and one becomes purified. And and repeat, practice that. Abhyasa, practice and 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 keep practicing. It's something like taking a magnifying glass. I like this example because it works, and even children can understand it. You ever used a magnifying glass before? You know what one is?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Have you ever tried to see what you can do with the magnifying glass to take the light of the sun and make it into a little spot on a paper or... No? Try it. I invite you. Huh? Okay, well, Mom will help you get one. Yes. So here's how it works. The sun is fire, correct? Yeah. And the fire is diffused. So when it gets over here to Houston, Texas, it's not as hot as the sun, but it's fire. But it's diffused fire. So a magnifying glass has a way of making that diffused fire concentrated again. So if you take the magnifying glass and hold it over a piece of paper or something that's organic, and it acts like fire. It can burn a hole in a piece of wood. You could start a forest fire with magnifying glass because there's fire. The sun, diffused light, and heat and fire, and you bring it. But you have to hold the magnifying glass in a certain angle and hold it steady. Because if you move it around or move it, then it's not going to make fire. It's still fire because the diffused light is fire. That's what it is, fire. So I had this explanation, made this explanation in front of a group of young people because at least in one place, young people like to sit right in the front and giggle. Not pay full attention. So I engaged them this way. The next day they came back with all these pieces of paper that had burn holes in it. Because they tried it and it works. And yoga worked the same way, but you have to be steady at it. Because the Supreme, the name of the Supreme is all powerful. Back to his question. How to get to the point, what is that juncture where intelligence acts instead of allows something that's not so good for you to do, and you do it anyways? What fastens that down? Purity is needed to make the intelligence active. And purity comes from the Supreme Pure, Krishna. So that's the chanting of the name with focused attention, like the magnifying glass, makes the diffused light of the sun fire. It works. Both works. Magnifying glass can make fire, and chanting of the holy name, the Supreme Pure's holy name, can make one pure. But it takes a focus and attention over a period of time. You can't keep moving around. You have to be focused. And then you don't have to be focused. You can get diffused light that gets more concentrated than burning a fire. But if you want it to do what the maximum thing it can do, that it's full attention in that which is the Supreme Pure. For this age, the deity worship, and like the sages of Naimisharanya, they were engaged in yajna. That's also purifying. But who knows all those mantras and so forth? It's not easy. And the chanting is easy. Anyone. He. Anything else? Go ahead. We'll come back. Yeah. I just
Hare
saw-
Krishna Maharaj,
saw him.
Dandavat Pranams. Maharaj, you explained that, we choose ignorance and Paramatma grants our choice to be ignorant and grants one body after the another
Yeah.
to remain ignorant.
Well, he grants, but he also prompts to do something else.
And the fact that I am here is I have ignored the prompt.
The fact that you're here is what?
Is that I have ignored the prompt from Paramatma, not to.
Well, that you're here in the room with us at the moment, or that you're here in the material world in this material body? The second one?
Second one.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's there's a mix. It's not 100% this or 100% that. So yes, there's some ignorance. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a material body. Yes, but it's not 100% ignorance. That's generally speaking, that's like a lower species. You wouldn't have a human form if it was all ignorance. So degrees, and then the karma factor also. That's also a free choice. Someone insults me. I can get angry. Or I can, I have choices. I can slap them. I can be silent. I can smile. I can say thank you. I have choices. Different person, so different. I'm generating my own destiny by free will choices. That's the sadasad yoni janmasu. I'm generating my good fortune, ill fortune by my choices. And it's influenced by the modes of nature and karma, but not dictated by. Because that's free will is not controlled by either. Am I answering your question or confusing you?
Yes. No. Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
How not to repeat that choice again, the wrong choice again?
How much?
How not to repeat the same mistake
You're
again?
asking his question. And it takes purity. You're asking the same. It's not, the language is different. Now, having that desire, that's good. That's a starting point. And then what do you do with that desire? And then supposing you get the answer to that desire, to that question.
Follow.
You have to practice. Abhyasa. And practice and practice. Practice makes perfect.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Is this your son?
No.
Okay.
My son is of the same age. He's
Okay,
not-
about the same age. Okay.
My question is, again, building on these two questions, right? It's the black and white, or the discernibility between good and bad sometimes seems very thin.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm a scientist working on nuclear energy.
Okay.
That could be used to produce light and heat
Yeah.
to keep people, living beings happy.
Yes.
That could be used to
Make
kill
wars.
herds of people, right?
Yes.
So how that conflict always exists in every act that we go through.
Well, that's the modes of nature.
Right. Then how do you understand, or how do you make sure that you stay on the right path? But at the same time, how do you know that you're on the right path?
Okay, those are nice questions. The simple answer, Guru Sadhu Shastra. The standard for how do you know anything? That's a good question. How do you know anything? And the Vedas have an explanation of the different ways of knowing things without going through the whole procedure. The best is from authority that's infallible. Who's that? What's the authority? I know fallible authorities, but what's an infallible authority? The Supreme. Well, how do I know that? So then you keep going, but there's a basis of knowing. So then there's symptoms of one who has that qualification of beyond the defects of a human being, because all human beings have defects. So it's a philosophical question, but you have to be willing to plunge into philosophical, contemplations to get the answer. In principle, that it's in Bhagavad Gita, that which exists before the creation exists, that's the infallible entity. But how do you know what exists before creation? Because it existed before you exist. So how do you know it? When that which is the source of everything reveals that, thus the Vedas are revealed or disclosed in descending fashion. And if you don't like that descending fashion, then you'll never know. But if you want to know, then it's just like, there's an electric outlet somewhere on the wall. And how do I know that there's electricity? Stick my fingers in it. I have an experience. Someone doesn't have to tell me. You got electric shock. I can tell them from direct experience. So the direct experience of connecting with the infallible source of everything, it's a direct experience. Now, what are the symptoms of that direct? The scripture gives the symptoms. So you evaluate your experience of knowing with a capital K, or knowing with truth with a capital T, with the symptoms of one who has that experience. And is there an alignment? So I can see that within myself or within someone. And that's how you go about the direct experience with symptoms, lakshana. And there's characteristics. There's some of the characteristics include, we had this discussion over the whole weekend, characteristics of, diminishing and eventually completely squeaky clean of affinity for trying to be the enjoyer of the temporary. If you're not trying to be the enjoyer of the temporary, what's your desires? To enjoy, to be situated in happiness with the Supreme. What are the symptoms? So like that. It's Guru Sadhu Shastra, in short. And above both Guru and Sadhu is Shastra. And because Shastra is this, it's Narayan. The breathing of Narayan gives the Vedas, and the Vedas gives that vibration that moves matter. Sound moves matter. Sound moves matter, and spiritual sound moves the spiritual consciousness of the soul. And there are symptoms of when spiritual consciousness is moved. And it's in the scriptures. How to do it and what it looks like, what it feels like. And so if there's alignment, then you're on the right track. And if you're not in alignment, then comes his question. How do I get in alignment? I made 3 steps. How to make the 4th step? So good association and good teaching, and a desire to get there, to get to the 4th step. And then you practice, and you practice, and you practice. According to, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, one who strives by right means is assured of success. So what's the right means? Who knows what that right means is? Who can help train me in what that right means is? That's the Guru, or Sadhu. And I want to find those people, and I want to keep their association. I want to keep trying because inside there's this desire. I want to get there. I don't want this covered thing anymore. I want to move towards light. So, Guru Sadhu Shastra. Yes.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. My question is, as we can, three modes of material nature, we can utilize mode of passion, mode of goodness in the service of Lord. Can we do the same thing with mode of ignorance? And I know Hanuman used anger, but what about sleep and intoxication and all that? Can those be used in the service of Lord?
What do you think?
No, so that means some aspect can be used.
Okay, there's the discerning capacity, the intelligence that rules certain things out.
And my other question is, when a yogi in the perfect meditation reaches samadhi, so he sees Paramatma in his heart at that time.
Well, Paramatma reveals himself. He may reveal himself.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's say he reveals himself
Okay.
to that yogi. What happens next?
What depends? Depends on the rest of what that consciousness of that yogi is. What's next?
Some of the options.
They can think, I am that. That's me. That's an option.
Oh, that's me.
No, I am that supreme.
Okay.
I mean, why are you asking this question?
Because I've always wondered about this question, because Prabhupada mentions in his purports that this yoga path and karma yoga path and all that. So I've always wondered, this perfect yogi who reaches the samadhi, what does he get at the end?
Well, it depends. It depends. For example, here's a for example. Chapter 2 of second canto Bhagavatam focuses on Paramatma realization in detail. Now, if that person who has Paramatma realization does not get association devotee, the result is going to be different than one who does. The one who does moves from that Paramatma realization to the next. Or, here's another very nice example. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita, there's description of Tapaloka. Tapaloka is an upper planetary system above where we are, above heaven, above Maharloka, and above Janaloka. It's way up there, Tapaloka. And that's what they do, they meditate. And they're very happy just doing meditation. So you want to know what's next. They don't want to know what's next. They just want to stay there and meditate. They're very happy.
So there's probably conversation going on between Paramatma and them at that level.
There's something going. There's variety. Don't put it in a box. There's variety. There's different people in Tapaloka that have different persuasions. So it's a question you've always wondered. It depends on their association.
So taking the example of Dhruv Maharaj, because he was looking for Vishnu, that's why Lord Vishnu, when he saw Paramatma in his heart, Lord Vishnu appeared before him.
Yes.
Because that's what he was looking for to begin with.
Yes. But it was same with Narada Muni. Same with Narada Muni in his previous lifetime.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Sure. I'm looking at you. We're just waiting for the microphone to make its way to your hand.
Hare Krishna. Why did the infallible Supreme allow so many different philosophies to thrive? And some of those philosophies are directly contradictory to each other too.
Sure. It's chaos, isn't it? So why creation? Step back from that. Why creation? Why the diversity of creation? Because we wanted it. And he said, no, you sure you want that? It's not, I want it. Okay. Here it is. But here's what I want. No, I don't want you want. I want what I want. I'll tell you what I want. Don't tell me what I want. They're rebellious. So the diversity of creation is there because of diversity of desires connected to guna. It's like this just we discussed, guna and karma. So there's all kinds of mixtures, so there's all kinds of people with all kinds of things going on. So why does he permit it? Because we wanted it. Why does parents let the little child just scream like that? Well, what are they going to do? The child's going to scream. What are you going to do? Take him to another room, at least. Why don't they take him to another room? Anyway, Hare Krishna. Because of desire. Anumanta, upadrashta anumanta cha. From the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He is the overseer, upadrashta. He sees, acknowledges, and permits. Anumanta. It's not what he wants, but he sanctions. And with consequences. Yes? Yeah, for every choice. We're done. Yay! Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Maha